Welcome to NRG at Night. Sorry we're a little late with difficulties there, but thank you for joining us day one. For the intro, without really knowing quite what this is. In truth, we don't know either. Will Krueger is my guest for tonight. We'll talk to him in a minute. First, I want to go over kind of what the show's trying to be. And I'm going to make it very basic. We're going to go through the 5 W's explanation, starting with who? Me. I'm your host, Joe Lossett. And yes, my hair's getting a little thick. I haven't gotten it cut in quite a while. I'm sure many of you can relate to that. Director of NRG at Night, Max Kahn, cannot relate to that, but fortunately he doesn't have a microphone, so it doesn't matter. Each night I'll be here joined by a guest selected from a mix of players who have started making a name for themselves on the NRG series, and people you may recognize from the greater Magic world. What is it we're doing here? So each show we're going to present a couple of feature matches from a round from the latest NRG Online Open event. Tonight we have the first two feature matches from this weekend's event, which is Pioneer with Ikoria. The matches are recorded but unseen until now by both myself and my guest. In between the matches, I'm going to take some time with the guest. I think everyone has different experiences and stories regarding life and just their magic experiences. And my goal is to find something relatable or unique about each of them. After we finish the second match, we're going to open it up with a discussion topic. At this point, we'll express our views on some topic that is current to what's going on in Magic right now. And then also we'll check out how the viewers feel in the chat and respond to questions both about the topic and then about anything else you're interested in. Where? Well, you can find us here, twitch.tv/NRG series, and past shows will be available here as well as on YouTube. When are we going to be here? We're going to be here weeknights at 7 p.m. Central. That's right. That's a little ambitious for a new show we're starting out. And but we're going to try to be back tomorrow at the same time, or actually at the correct time, barring massive technical failures. And since I'm not in charge of the technical aspects of the show, I think we have a good chance of things working out fine. And finally, and most importantly, why? Why are we doing this? Well, Nerd Rage Gaming is a brick-and-mortar LGS in Buffalo Grove, Illinois, outside of Chicago, with a small but growing tournament series in the Midwest. And that was fine. Everything was good. And then the coronavirus pandemic kind of set in and shut down the series. And then we were just a store again. And then very, very shortly thereafter, the store had to be shut down. And now we're just an online sales portal. And that's fine. But once things get going again, we hope to get back to where we were at. And in the meantime, we don't want you to forget about us. So this show and the events that we're hosting and broadcasting is kind of our way of continuing to be part of the greater Magic universe until things return to normal. It's probably going to undergo a lot of changes this show, especially over the first few weeks as we kind of figure out what we're doing, find out what works and what doesn't work. But we hope you enjoy it at the same time. Now, that's more than you probably want to hear from me all at once, and that's why we have guests to break things up and take the pressure off me. So let's go ahead and bring on our guest for tonight, future Pro Tour competitor Will Krueger.
Hey, how's it going, Joe? I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. This is great. So we're going to talk to you more in depth about yourself and what's going on with you a little later on. But right now, so we're talking about Ikoria Pioneer. That's our format, which is new for a lot of people. For you personally, have you dabbled in this at all? What have you been playing with?
I haven't been playing a ton of Pioneer recently, but I've been playing with this Sultai mid-range deck that my buddy Andrew Tenjum built. He put a lot of time into it, and he's been playing a lot online with the coronavirus pandemic and whatnot. And it's sort of, I played it in this event, and it's sort of just a traditional black-green X deck. I don't know what the best deck in the format is. I tested a little bit with Gyruda because I thought that would be very broken, but it turned out to be a little less consistent than it looks on paper, a little too easy to disrupt, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, the format seems pretty great to me, and I'm excited to watch some matches of it tonight.
Yeah, so my perspective for Pioneer comes from playing Lotus Freaks. That's what I've been playing since the last Pro Tour. And I also played in this event, full disclosure. Both Will and I played in this event. We do not know the outcome of any matches aside from our own. And So I don't know that you're going to get to see a feature match from either one of us, but we're going to be approaching all these matches fresh and clearly from a pretty different perspective as far as how we analyze games in the format. Now, let's go ahead and see what we have for you today for our first match. We have our players are Sam Brown, a youngster from nearby to where Nerd Rage is actually located physically. Sam Brown, this is his local game store. He's playing humans, which has humans with Jahenga companion, should be pointed out. And this is a deck that I'm not sure really existed in Pioneer before Ikoria was printed.
Yeah, this is actually very interesting. I haven't seen a deck like this before, but you can see General Krueger, I believe, is a card from the new set that seems to be one of the payoffs here for building your deck around a bunch of humans. It actually seems to be, is it the only card that cares about humans in the deck? Oh, you have Lieutenant too, of course.
We actually have quite a few. We have Lieutenant. We have, I guess the other ones just are for attacking creatures. But yeah, we have kind of, we have Lords, a couple, one true Lord and two kind of pump Lords. And then a lot of the same cards as we see in the, some same cards we see in the Modern Humans deck. Certainly it has kind of the same lines, except we have a strong removal spell in Dire Tactics that we just don't see in the Modern version of the deck.
Oh, yeah, Dire Tactics is very nice. I mean, when you play like 30 humans or whatever like this deck is playing, it's going to be very easy to just have it be 2 mana, exile target creature. I believe at instant speed, which is, of course, very powerful. So that's a payoff for playing humans. Yeah, there's a bunch of reasons and incentives to be playing with all these humans.
Yeah, and then we have the companion, Jahenga. So that's an aspect that obviously didn't exist before. And I happen to know that this deck was kind of just thrown together over the day or so before the event. Sam kind of sat down and was like, this is what I want, this is what I want, I'm going to try this. And then Jahenga kind of fits the requirement to play the card is you can't have double mana cost cards of the same color, and we clearly don't have that. And we have a sideboard mixed with kind of some hate cards and some singletons, just kind of make things go together and hate down kind of some of the specific decks. I think this is fairly well built, good for him, and I'm excited to see how it goes. His opponent is going to be Andrew Elliott, who, now you can speak to this from experience. We have a Sultai Delirium deck.
Yeah, this deck looks this is very similar to what I played in this exact event. I didn't have the traverses, but a similar idea. Yeah, I mean, the idea of this deck is basically just Thoughtseize into Uro. You want to play Thoughtseize, you want to play Fatal Push, and you want to play just 1-for-1 removal spells like Heartless Act, etc., etc. And then you want to finish your opponent off with one of the best grindy cards that has been printed in recent memory in Uro, which is, of course, very strong. You can see that Andrew has chosen to include 2 copies of Murderous Rider to traverse for and, of course, draw naturally over possibly including a Jegantha of his own in a sideboard, which maybe he believes that Murderous Rider is a very important part of the Traverse the Elvenwald package. I assume he does, because otherwise you would just play Jegantha.
I definitely see, the first one, if you're not going to play Jahenga, if you're allowing yourself to play Murderous Rider, the first one is guaranteed you're going to be in the deck as a traverse target.
Yeah.
And obviously the decision was made well. The second one is worth playing. Interesting to me looking at this deck, because the Emrakul is in the sideboard, whereas I believe in the past we occasionally saw it in the main deck. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess that's more of just a concession to the format becoming faster. I mean, even for decks like Sam's, where you would probably board out the Emrakul because they're just trying to beat you down and kill you on turn 4 or turn 5. Having the Emrakul in the sideboard makes a lot of sense for just like the grindier matchups like Uro Mirrors or against Blue-White Control or whatever.
Yeah, that is definitely something I've noticed over the short amount of time since Ikoria was released for Pioneer, is aside from, every format basically went crazy since Ikoria was released.
Yep.
We basically have all these stipulations for building decks. Your curve has to be even numbered. You have to play 80 cards. You have to play cheap cards, all kinds of different stuff. And then the format also got faster. I think is the most noticeable difference from playing some of it, at least for myself, is there are a number of fast decks. And Andrew is potentially playing against one. I'm curious to see how Sam Brown's deck develops. And I think we're ready to go ahead and go down to our first match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to be watching from Sam Brown's perspective here, and looks like we're on a mulligan to 6, or maybe, well, we'll see.
Yeah, this looks like a 6. This is certainly one of those 6s that you look at and you're just like very unexcited about because you just don't play to the board very well. Like your first play is likely a Thalia's Lieutenant with no other humans on the board, which is of course not ideal. But I think this is probably a keep, especially given open deck lists. The Reflector Mage is going to be okay if he's got a Jace or something. You're supposed to go to 5.
I don't know. I think it's a little worrisome going to 5 cards when you're a deck that you need kind of a critical mass of creatures in play. This is not a deck that recoups card advantage very well, aside from having the free Jahenga once 5 mana is reached.
Yeah, absolutely. That what is that card called? Honored Crop Captain. That's a nice pickup, just so he doesn't have to play a Naked Lieutenant on turn 2. He gets something else to do.
Right, definitely. Now we can see the Lieutenant come down on perhaps on turn 4 alongside the Dire Tactics to support a board that's already been established.
Yeah, Kithian's another nice pickup, so he can potentially double spell next turn. I assume he's just going to play the Captain here, and then he's going to go for Lieutenant plus Kithian next turn.
Right.
It's going to be interesting whether he wants the Kithian or the Lieutenant to be bigger. I would assume you want the Lieutenant to be bigger since Kithian's going to flip, but maybe Kithian being bigger makes it so he survives combat against the Seder Wayfinder. So maybe that's a reason to play Kithian first.
Yeah, we shall see. So Sam gets on the board a little bit here, and now Andrew kind of, well, that's a setback for Sam, as the Wayfinder being cleared to attack doesn't really matter very much, but really it's just Andrew's life total is safe for the early turns, and this Thalia's Lieutenant just gets weaker and weaker as the board is smaller when it actually ends up coming into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And this sort of plays into what you're talking about with the mulliganing. Like, imagine if Sam had got his guy Fatal Push if he had mulliganed to 5 and had a Thalia's Lieutenant, right? It's just like, that's the problem with this kind of deck and mulliganing. It's just like it doesn't handle low resources very well.
Right. And then now just unfortunate, I mean, we have 4 copies, I believe, of the legendary creature in the deck, and we've drawn a pair of them, and that's just kind of a setback. And if it was the first card that we were able to play, and he got killed by the Fatal Push, that's no problem. But it's not what we had happen here.
Yeah, missing our curve on turn 1 is really brutal. With this deck, you really just want to get out ahead of the opponent. But you can see that Andrew is obviously ahead on board here. He's behind on board, but he was able to take an early lead, I guess, with developing his mana, and his life total is still at a healthy 18. So.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew's behind on the board, sort of, but he's always going to be behind on the board until he wins. But he's under no pressure. I think that's really the more relevant aspect for him. I mean, the fact that he's playing against an aggressive creature deck and he's able to just attack with a pair of Wayfinders on turn 4. This is it's a very good situation. It's probably better than you could have hoped for.
Yeah, I gotta say that I'm not a huge fan of that attack, because if Sam was only able to play 1 human this turn, which he would have if he hadn't drawn the Hero of Precinct 1, then he would be threatening a double block on the Lieutenant, and I don't think the 2 damage to Sam is very relevant. But being able to potentially save himself this hit would have been nice. But he probably just wouldn't have blocked because Sam was able to double spell. So,
I mean, I agree with you there that Sam's being on somewhat few cards, and even the ability to just chump block here with one of the Wayfinders might not have been too bad.
Yeah, that would have been fine too. Like, I did not like that attack at all. But yeah.
Okay, we'll see what Andrew's. Okay, so there's another removal spell. That's nice. Now we're getting to the point of the game where Andrew wants to be, playing a card, a Planeswalker, an Uro, something that generates significant advantage. This is kind of the time.
Yep, he's gotten to the point where he got out of the early turns. He's got his mana underneath him. He just wants to play something that's more powerful than what Sam has, like an Ashiok or Uro, like you said. Uro would be phenomenal here. Although Sam is ready with is it Dire Tactics?
Yeah, Dire Tactics, which is going to be just a 2-mana exile any creature with no drawback.
Yeah.
The drawback for Dire Tactics actually comes up. Sam is almost certainly just dead anyway, as that would mean he'd have
if he had no board and he had a creature that he wanted to kill. And here we can see the Murderous Rider coming up that Andrew chose to include over the sideboard Gigantha, potentially. And it's looking pretty good. Being able to traverse for basically a 2-for-1 here is quite nice.
Yeah, it's Gigantha. I was saying Jahenga. That's my fault. But Murderous Rider takes out Lieutenant here, leaving just Kithian. And again, we have these 2 Wayfinders back. And this is Andrew only has 1 card in hand, but Sam this is not looking too good. Maybe if Sam might be better off being flooded right now and being able to play the Giganta.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst. That Thraben Inspector is a nice draw. Just plays to the board and replaces itself.
And it actually managed to block both of the creatures that Andrew has on the board at the moment. That'll change once Murder Strider develops into play. But for now, I mean, Sam is the game is stable, but anytime the game is stable, it's going to favor the mid-rangey deck that wants to play a longer game, and that is not Sam.
Yeah, I like what Sam's doing here. You can see he sort of hovered over the Dire Tactics, potentially trying to push a little damage, but the 2 damage at this point isn't super relevant, and you really want to use that Dire Tactics on this Murderous Rider, or something like that Jace, which is even more threatening, because, like, I mean, if he had to Reflector Mage that Murderous Rider to continue pushing damage, then Andrew would just be able to recast it on the front half immediately because it's a different name. It's Swift End versus Murderous Rider, I believe.
Yeah. So another thing that Sam could have considered there was breaking the clue immediately to try and hit a 4th land drop, which would, if another land came off the next turn, then allow Giganta to come down. But here we are with the removal spell available, and that's fine too. It looks like we are going to deploy it.
So he's valuing pushing damage over this Jace. I guess we're going to Reflector Mage the Jace. Okay, yeah, this is fine here. Yeah, this is good.
We hit the land, and yeah, we'll get the Jace out of the way. Like you were saying, we don't want to be Jace. We don't want to be reflecting the Murderous Rider, but bouncing the Jace is just fine. And then we get to get in for,
You can get in for like a point here. I can't imagine you want to trade Kithian. Andrew can double block, but I suppose that's okay.
Yeah,
sure.
And we don't want. Yeah, we don't want, because we want to have Kithian be able to flip over at some point also. So really we didn't have an attack there.
No.
But next turn we should be all set. And if Sam can draw a land, deploy the Giganta and attack with the team, and Kithian I haven't seen him play for a while. It's attack with 2 other creatures, correct? To flip it over.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. So here we see a card that I was surprised to see the inclusion of when I first started playing against it. Over the last couple months in this deck is the mini upside down Fact or Fiction creature Atris, and this is it works fairly well here. It's going to work extremely well in this case as we Uro and Tireless Tracker alongside Salvage. So Andrew's going to get some of these cards in his hand, and no matter how this comes about, he's going to be happy with the result.
Yeah, that was really brutal because Uro, if he doesn't pick it, it just goes to the graveyard. And so you can see he just didn't pick it, and he got a tracker and a salvage, I believe. And the Uro is in the graveyard, where honestly he would prefer it just so he can get down the 6/6 next turn. A tap land here is pretty brutal, but Giganta can come down next turn, but she's smaller than Uro is. Yeah, don't love Sam's odds here.
No, this has gotten away from him. Well, actually, I'm not sure it's even fair to say that. He never really had it under control in the first place.
No,
this is, with all the fast lands, the 5th land, the later land drops are going to come to play depth often for Sam. But again, it's not like having Giganta costs him very much, as he may not have changed his deck building at all, having access to it. So all the creatures come in, and we're seeing a bunch of blocks, and we're getting some trades, and then we are going to see an activation to earn indestructibility for the turn. So it will flip over and become Gideon Battleforged. But really the kind of mounting problem is that Andrew is at 13, his life total is likely to increase, and Sam doesn't have a whole lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, this Uro is going to be escaped this turn, I have to imagine. Potentially, he'll be able to play like an Abrupt Decay in the same turn. I mean, you notice that he missed his land drop last turn. Like, his hand is almost certainly all spells, or all spells in 1 land, which he drew for this turn. Unless he's holding lands for some reason. And that's just like a nightmare situation. I mean, how many combinations of 4 or 5 spells can Sam beat here? Like,
yeah, there's just, I mean, he can't defend the Gideon very effectively. Next turn it's going to be the same case. And then once that falls and Giganta, there's just nothing going on here. We have a clue, but one card's not, any card in Sam's deck is not going to be enough to bail him out of this.
No, I mean, potentially a Dire Tactics to exile the Uro, but then, like, Andrew has 5 cards left in his hand and 16 life to work with to figure something out how to beat this Kithian and Reflector Mage. Like, that just seems very doable.
Yes, it does.
That's assuming we draw best possible, right? We're behind if we draw best possible. Yeah.
So Andrew is going to choose to take a pain in order to keep a dual end untapped. That's completely reasonable, especially given his bountiful life total here.
Yes, his life total is very healthy. He is in totally fine shape.
Uro comes in. We see a swamp drop, so that was probably, well, okay, either the swamp or the Fabled Passage, which was likely to draw for the turn. Jace returns to the board, and Sam's going to keep playing this out, but I don't imagine he was very optimistic.
Yeah, just packing it in here is fine. There's nothing that can really get you back into this.
Yeah, that was a rough spot. I mean, he did mulligan, but even setting that aside, he didn't look like he would have been in good shape even with a couple more cards. But now we get to move into sideboard games. So let's go ahead and take a look what Sam has access to here. We have 3 Thalia Heretic Cathar, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Dranith Magistrate, 2 Frontline Medics, 2 Kambal Consul of Allocation, a Sin Collector, a General's Enforcer, a Lawbrink Venturer, and then his Giganta, which is technically a part of his sideboard. What do you like here? Anything in particular jump out at you?
Okay. Thalia Heretic Cathar is alright. It seems like a pretty important part of this matchup would be Uro to stabilize, and Uro not being able to block is probably pretty important. Dranith Magistrate also shuts off Uro, but like neither of these is like an actually great exchange for you, but like you actually value the 1/3 body in this deck, so it's probably fine to bring in the Magistrate. I don't know if I'd want the Thalia. Like on the play, she's kind of okay, especially considering that the deck has like a lot of non-basics, so like you can get a decent tempo play, but you can't really turn to her because you don't have a Noble Hierarch variant in here, unfortunately. And then for Andrew, he's got a couple removal spells with a Need to Extinction and a Heartless Act and 2 more Repliques, and so that sounds great to me. The rest of this doesn't seem very good. It's possible the Lava Brink Forerunner is a good one because you can just name Odd and that shuts off Fatal Push and Uro, but then it can still get Decayed, so you don't really get there's no real way to get it all, but it could be okay. It's just like a threat that dodges some of his removal. Sin Collector's okay too. That's 2 for 1.
Venture seems okay. General's Enforcer sounds alright to me. I mean, it's a lot of mana investment, but eating away at the creatures in the graveyard of the Sultai Delirium deck could, in a long game, actually make a difference.
I need to read General's Enforcer really quick. I'm sorry.
It's black and a white. It's a 2/3 for anyone else that doesn't know. And for the cost of 4 mana, you can remove a card from the graveyard, and if it's a creature, you get a 1/1 token.
Okay, that seems pretty good.
It also affects your legendary humans, which there are legendary humans in Sam's deck, so there is a secondary effect in addition to the primary effect, which is in the graveyard. So I think that'll likely come in. I thought it was interesting looking over Sam's deck list that there are some one-ofs in here that feel like cards, well, particularly General's Enforcer and Sin Collector. These are cards I feel like in the matchups you want them, you really want them. So I was surprised that there weren't more copies. This may be just a case of trying to fit in so many different cards, or maybe it's just it's early in the format. You don't know what exactly the metagame's going to look like, so you don't know how many of the different sideboard cards you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Companions sort of just drastically change the landscape, so it's hard to predict what you're going to play against, right? So just having a little bit of this, a little bit of that makes sense to me.
That's true also, and I don't want to forget that Sam's actually down a sideboard card because of the Giganta.
Yep. Can only have 14 cards he has access to boarding in and out, unless he wants to board in Giganta for some bizarre reason, but I can't imagine we're doing that.
No, I don't imagine we'll see that too often in any of the formats. Okay, so we've gone over both sideboarding plans. Let's go ahead and see how Game 2 plays out. Sam with the right to go first this time, and it looks like a keepable hand, so that is good for him. No turn 1 play, but still we have a good mix of stuff as long as we can find another land in the next couple turns.
Yeah, this hand is fine. A little top heavy, but again, mulliganing with this kind of deck in this kind of matchup particularly is really punishing. Pretty easy play unclaimed territory over Confluence there in case you draw a Painless land. No discard from Andrew. Probably means he has multiple removal spells if I had to guess.
No turn 1 play from either player, and Andrew's got to be happy about that.
Yeah, that's exactly what Andrew wants. Sam breaking on a third land here is pretty brutal. He now has 4 3-drops in his hand. If he draws a land, though, he's in really good shape.
Yeah, we haven't. Would we say we've bricked on it at this point? I wouldn't personally have described it that way since we haven't missed a land drop yet, but that's fair. I mean, words are, kind of in the eye of how people use them, and so if you would call this bricking, that's fine. Definitely, he needs it.
Yes.
This Abrupt Decay doesn't really change things. He needed it either way, kind of desperately. And okay. We did not brick in my terminology, and so now we have options. Manus Rider is going to be the choice and get in for 3 immediately. So okay, this is something. This is good.
Yeah, Rider seems like a great play here. You follow up with another Rider and then Kudro would probably be how I would play this.
Yeah, that would be an absolute ton of damage.
Yes.
Andrew's not going to be very easily able to. His creatures aren't going to interact with flyers, and no player does have Fabled Passage, which will enable Fatal Push to take down the Manus Rider. That's pretty important.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about is maybe the Watery Grave. Watery Grave was entered tapped after Sam played no 1-drop, so you got to assume he has a 2-drop. But maybe he wanted to line up the Decay like that, and just so he could be as mana efficient as possible on turn 2, and maybe he could play 2 removal spells this turn if he drew a different land. But as it sits, there's no way for him to play 2 removal spells. Okay, we just got another Decay. That makes sense.
Okay. Well, still, Sam will basically the board will stay as it was previously. Both players have drawn a pair, Manus Rider versus Abrupt Decay, but Sam is in the lead here at the moment on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I assume Andrew has more removal spells just because he has still 5 cards in his hand, and his deck is literally just a pile of removal spells. I mean, his hand could be like Uros, lands, and Jaces, but I assume we would have seen Jace come down last turn.
Right. So here we have a second passage, which again makes still Fatal Push is still alive. Although if we had Fatal Push, I wonder if we would have seen it last turn and hold on to the Decay. That's really kind of hard to say. Now Sam has the choice of playing 2 Lieutenants or playing one of his 3-drops and a third Abrupt Decay.
Okay. It's a lot of Decays.
Yeah, it's a little rough, but this Venturer, I guess, if we can choose the right, make the right choice, odd or even, based on what Andrew has in his hand, this is going to be a fairly large creature rapidly with 3 effective Lords in hand.
Yeah, so I believe we put it on even, so it doesn't dodge Uro or push, unfortunately, and we could be seeing a push come off this Fabled Passage here. Nope, just going to get Forest, maybe signaling that he's trying to set up Uro mana.
It's interesting. With 3 Abrupt Decays already cast, I would have been tempted to go for odd. But
it will have protection from this Atros, which is nice.
Yeah. And this Atros is not nearly as devastating as the previous one.
We did not want to see that Uro, but it's possible we can tempo it out with Kudro's activated ability, where you can sack 2 creatures to destroy a creature with power 4 or greater, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so Andrew got the 2 lands, which is nice for him since those are basically free, since the Uro, like you said last game, is better off in his graveyard.
Yep. Okay, we've drawn many lands at this point, but we kept a 2-lander, so that's kind of exactly what you want to happen. But this game is still close because Sam's hand is quite good, and we do have Jangotha coming down if we do run out of gas at some point, and there's no removal spell that can be cast this turn. Oh, when a human enters, you can exile a card. Okay, I am learning more cards about Kudro, more things about Kudro as time goes on. That is great.
Yeah, that is excellent. Removing the Uro from the graveyard, that is going to drastically change the way the game plays out.
Yeah,
and
that's
the way
critical.
May have disrupted Andrew's plans, who most likely was planning on his next turn being Uro from the graveyard.
Almost certainly, yeah. So, I mean, Andrew does have 6 cards. It's not going to be impossible for him to come back from this, but Sam has definitely managed to pull ahead here.
Yeah, and with more Lords to come, as well as Jangotha, which we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised that, even though it's a waste of mana, if the Lieutenant is prioritized over the Jangotha next turn.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so much more damage quicker, especially if we can draw a spell to go with it. Just double spelling again seems awesome, and then playing Jangotha as your last thing. Like, all right, here's this, I'm out of stuff, but I have a 5/5.
And Grizzly Salvage, this is, okay, Andrew is definitely in trouble now. This is not
a
play. I
Yeah, I think we're looking for an Uro here, so this is a bit of a desperation move. It does not look like we hit an Uro, unfortunately. The Fabled Passage, number 3, I believe, is going to enable Fatal Push, though, which is something.
Murderous Rider went to the graveyard on that Grizzly Salvage, so we did find something good. And there goes the biggest, most important threat from Sam's board.
Yeah, this Krueger is still a little bit scary, though, especially because it's about to outgrow... It's already outgrown the Atris, but it's about to outgrow it again. Okay, there's a 2/2 for 2. I mean, it's going to be a 3/3. I assume you want that to be bigger than the Lieutenant. I'm not totally sure. I guess you maybe want the Lieutenant to be big enough so you can attack it into Atris next turn, so you probably want to lead on Lieutenant. But this is probably fine, too. Or it's going to go for Jangotha.
Okay,
sure.
So we're Jangotha. So we're not going to push Lieutenant this turn, just the General will get in, and we're not going to eat the graveyard this turn, but that's okay because it's unlikely to matter. There's no Uro in there, and for an Uro that finds its way in there, there's plenty of other cards. There's no way that Sam can keep up with that. Andrew debating a block here. This is attacking for about half his life total.
Yeah, I don't know what's in Andrew's hand at this point, but you definitely can put him on having a pretty weak hand if he started with Grizzly Salvage when he had 6 cards and 5 mana last turn, or 6 mana last turn.
I wonder if, because the Murder Strider wasn't taken because there's a shortage of black, with one of them being tapped for the Grizzly Salvage already, it's possible the other one's in hand, and that would give Andrew some ability to keep up, although the 2 damage from the Rider would be a problem also. Let's see what we have. Okay.
Ooh, we're tapping our forest over the swamp here, so we are eliminating all possibility of being able to Uro flashback this turn. So that means that he must have something else in mind for his turn, because he would have been able to Uro flashback here if he wanted to.
Right.
Presumably it's something to do with both black mana. Okay. That's fine, I suppose. That clears the way for Uro next turn. Andrew is down the board to a removal spell, but Sam is not playing very well. We have Reflector Mage and Dire Tactics, so there are some. Yeah, we got some outs here for lethal. Raven Inspector is not one of those outs.
But we can maybe build a board that can go around the Uro next turn.
Yeah, that seems very possible. He's probably going to need to draw a removal spell off the Uro, and even then it's going to be really close because he's taking just so much damage this turn, and Sam's board is so big.
Okay, so let's see. This Lieutenant is going to attack for, 5, I think?
I believe 5. It's going to get 2 counters from this next Lieutenant. It's already on 3.
Yeah, so Andrew's going to find himself at 1, and then go to 4 if his play is Uro. Yeah, this... The Uro is not enough. Uro is an incredible card, but it is not nearly enough to dig himself out of this situation.
Yeah, and you'll notice that that Andrew didn't actually leave himself with both his black mana, and he didn't use both his black mana. So it feels like it might have just been a trivial cost to have left up the mana last turn to have potentially just escaped the Uro this turn, but maybe he wanted to respect like a Dire Tactics or something, because that would be a card that makes sense to be in Sam's hand, because he hasn't really had a great opportunity to use it yet. It's pretty close, but it definitely would have been better if he had done the other thing. Or this turn would have been a great blocker.
I don't think we can make that argument as dying to Dire Tactics being a reason to not do it, because we're dead to Dire Tactics anyway.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, there's I don't really love how Andrew played his last turn then.
There may not be many things in his deck that can get him out of this.
No.
So maybe it doesn't matter. I don't believe we saw anything like a sweeper in the deck list, which is really what we need right now.
No, I was playing some extinction events in this event where you can either exile all odd cost creatures or even cost creatures, and that would be pretty good here because you can get rid of the 2s, block the Jangotha with I guess you don't have a 4th mana, but it would have been good in this matchup.
Yeah,
sounds pretty too heavy.
Extinction event is a really cool card. I like the creature, the Venturer, Lava Brink Venturer, I believe, the one that makes the choice on what it is protected from. That can be a real nuisance to deal with, but the Extinction Event is just both cards are cool. I think they're more balanced, less frustrating types of Trinity Nemesis cards. As Sam does draw a Swiftblade Vindicator, I believe it's called, which he may not have even needed, but that does end game 2 and tie up the match.
It does, yeah. I mean, any human would have given Sam lethal through a removal spell there. That one's a particularly good one. And he had 2 draws at it with the clue, so it was almost certainly ending that turn. I assume both players are a fan of how they sideboarded. So Frontline Medic, it's been a minute, but I believe that's the one that stops X spells if you have Battalion. Or no, it always stops X spells, and like it gives Indestructible if you have Battalion.
All right, Frontline Medic. Whenever Frontline Medic attacks and at least 2 other creatures attack, creatures you control are indestructible this turn. And sacrifice Frontline Medic, counter target spell with X in its mana cost unless the controller pays 3. So it's a mana leak for X spells. And more importantly, you just, when you send in everything, if there's some nuisance like an Uro on the other side of the board, everybody lives, and you just push through damage.
Yeah, absolutely.
We didn't see Thalia Heretic Cathar. Doesn't mean Sam didn't bring them in. It would. There are numerous dual lands in Andrew's deck, and Fabled Passages, so that's even more. But if we didn't see it going first, I doubt we'll see it going second. It's certainly not going to get better.
Yeah, it does not. That's not a card that gets better on the draw. You definitely want to have it on the play and stop and basically like time walk them, quote unquote, like make your land enter tap so you can't play the third thing or you can't play your guy in block or whatever. You just want to tempo swing them, but on the draw it's much worse.
So let's see what happens in game 3 here. Neither one of these games were like both of the losing players put up a fight, but both of these games were pretty one-sided so far.
Yeah.
Let's see. Andrew gets to go first this time. And we'll look at some opening hands and see how. Okay, so here we have Sam's. Briefly, we saw Sam's sideboarding there. I didn't quite get good enough look at it to actually learn anything. But you're young. You probably have good eyes. Did you get a full accounting of the cards that were there? I'll take that as a no. Okay, so it appears that we have lost Will momentarily, so I'll continue this on by myself, and hopefully he can make his way back on the broadcast.
Lost me?
Oh, there we go.
We good?
Okay.
Good? All right, cool. Awesome. All right.
That was perfect timing. You waited just long enough for me to realize you were gone and then interrupt me when I was talking my first thought when you came back in. So great. All right. Anyway.
All right. My bad. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. It's that you had no way of knowing I was talking as you were not actually in the broadcast for a moment there. So game 3 begins with just a land drop from Andrew. Sam plays Kidian, so he hits his 1-drop this time. Andrew untaps and kills it. And now we have Swiftblade Vindicator. So both players developing okay. Convenient for Sam is he, I believe, kept the hand with a 1-drop and a 3-drop and drew a 2-drop on curve. So that worked out well.
This was quite the hand, the triple Boros dual land hand with 2 Orzhov cards and a Jeskai card. But we did peel a Concealed Courtyard, so we're not there. We still can't cast this Mantis Rider, but these Dire Tactics are online, and there's probably going to get to snag an Uro with them in the coming turns, so that's appealing.
I don't tell Sam I'm saying this, and we'll just assume he isn't going to watch this, but there certainly is a saying I've heard before about little kid luck. And
this is some little kid luck on display here.
I don't know if Sam is too old to be a little kid at this point. He probably is. That wouldn't be fair to say, and yet we'll use it. That was little kid luck drawing the black mana and the 2-drop there. Good for him. So he's getting some pressure on, and Andrew is not have a huge hand size this game and is forced to chump block. And this is, if Andrew's follow-up here are blockers, then he's in trouble. If he has removal, then he's probably going to be fine.
Yeah, if he's just going for Uro here, it's not going to be great. That's sort of what happens when you keep a hand like this, where you're like missing a couple pieces, like your 2-drop and your mana, and then you draw your 2-drop and your mana, so it just kind of all plays out ideally. But yeah, if Andrew had just double removal spells here, like if he had like gone push decay or something, then there'd be a huge issue for Sam. But it should be fine this game because we're just gonna Dire Tactics this Uro, push 5 damage. Can't quite double spell.
Not quite, but we have the option for next turn, and yeah, Andrew can live with this. He down a couple life points in the exchange, but he got a card out of the Uro. This is okay, I would imagine, for him. He's not loving life, but it's okay.
Yeah, this hand is I mean, we're definitely ahead here, but Andrew has enough life to play with where a removal spell or two could definitely get him back into it. Okay, traverse for a basic.
Yeah, that's not well.
That is
Okay,
yucky.
so that probably locks in the fact that Andrew has 4 spells in hand.
One would assume.
So what are we going to do here? We need removal spells. We do not need more blockers.
Nope. Blockers, Andrew doesn't know it, but blockers are not going to get the job done. If he plays, this Jace is really not going to get the job done.
That's not even a blocker. That's neither.
Right. I mean, we're just going to kill that and push 5 more damage and play another threat. I would be a little scared of it. I mean, it's starting to flashback Fatal Push if he has like a salvage on end of turn or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe you just want to save it, but I imagine you just want to sort of narrow down the time frame in which the game is going to play out. Yeah. Like it's just so much better for you if this game matters in the next few turns. You just want to play to that.
Mm-hmm. So we throw that down even, and it looks like we're going to give the opportunity for a block, and there's decay. All right.
Okay.
So I think we'll still allow the opportunity for a block, and then when the Jace does not block, then we'll pick it off.
Yeah, at this point we have to pick it off because of like a salvage or a way to put any card in the graveyard here would mean a Fatal Push gets flashback, and that's uneven, yeah? So Fatal Push would tag the...
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay, we're just going to let it happen. You could kill it in response to the trigger, but you give him a free loot that way, so there's not a ton of incentive to do that.
Okay, Rider picks off...
Okay, that doesn't go to the graveyard, so we're probably just going to... I wonder if we're going to block this, or we're just going to kill this now.
I mean, I think we have to, because we can't play it next turn.
No. So, if Andrew can put a card in his graveyard... Did he loot?
No, he did not.
Okay, so in spots like that, you really just want to loot. Even if you like all the cards in your hand, just milling one is good in this deck, right? Because we have Uro in our deck, and we have like Delirium cards in our deck. So if you just the worst case scenario is you just draw the card you discard the card that you drew, which was milling one, which is something that you want to happen. Like you would want to mill.
I agree with you, and also we're checking out here, and Sam played Sacred Foundry tapped at this turn.
Yeah, I'm really not concerned with my life total in Sam's position. Going to 18 does not seem like much of a cost, and having this 1/2 that could be a lethal threat or something next turn. Did we brick on Uro there? We did.
But we also Grizzly salvaged. Could we not have?
We could have flipped Jace in response to the removal spell, right?
Yeah, we could have had Jace. I think we would have Jace on live on the board right now. So I don't want to be too critical of these players. This is first round of the event. We're but maybe this game could have played a little tighter on both sides.
Yeah, this was
But let's see what we've got. Okay, cast Murderous Rider. Andrew does look like he can survive the turn at least. Or a draw from Sam, which we did not see. I guess he has a redraw with the Inspector Clue.
Yeah, a removal spell, like another one of the dire tactics to kill his Murderous Rider would be nice. Force a chump on the... I guess that would just be lethal, so hopefully we'd do that.
Either that or Reflector Mage would take care of it also.
Hey, that does it.
Or a Mana Shard.
Sure. That is one of the many cards in the deck that got it done there. Easy peasy, as they say.
Yeah, and so Sam Brown is going to defeat Andrew Elliott.
Yes.
In game 3 and take down the match. So good for him. Congratulations for him on winning round 1 of the event.
Yep.
And momentarily here, the lethal attack comes in. And that's going to wrap things up.
All right, very nice. Good job for Sam Brown getting round number 1 in the inaugural NRG Magic Online Open.
Yeah. So for those of you that are just tuning in who don't know, we ran a couple weeks ago. We ran kind of a test event, which was an invitational of local players, just to see how things would work. And then this time we opened it up to anyone that wanted to register. It was played on Magic Online on Sunday, April 26th, and now we're going through the rounds. So I believe we are going to have a brief ad break here, and then we'll be back. And I'm going to talk with Will about his recent kind of turnaround in his results, which I'm sure he's quite happy about.
I am quite happy about it.
All right, so I believe we're going to step away for a minute, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back. Thank you for joining us today on our inaugural kind of show of Nerd Rage at Night to kind of demonstrate what we're capable of, both to you and to us. And as we're moving through this, now we're going to talk for a few minutes here with Will Krueger. Will, you've got kind of a pile of trophies on Magic Online, particularly in Modern. I know that you're usually on the leaderboard as your XWhale account.
Yes. I have gotten a few Magic Online trophies in my day.
Yeah, I think you're understating that there. And but really, and winning matches on Magic Online is great. It's fun. It shows you obviously have experience with the format. It helps pay for the account, and you've done very well. But you haven't had a ton of success in bigger events, and yet just in the last couple months, you played in the Nerd Rage CT. I believe you won the February event, correct?
I did, yeah. I won the Modern event with Green White, Primeval Titan, Field of the Dead, Dryad of the Elysian Grove, Valakut stuff.
Yeah, and not only did you win, you basically romped through the tournament, and then you followed that up with just a week ago, you won a online qualifier and qualified for your first Pro Tour.
I did do that, and to say I was thrilled would be an understatement. I've been trying. I guess trying would be not the best word, but I've wanted to go to the Pro Tour since I was 15 or 16. I'm 20 now, so it's been 5 years or so, 4 or 5 years. Just winning the Magic Online PTQ was a huge deal for me. It's unfortunate that it came during COVID. That's obviously not great, but I'm very excited that I get to play the PT whenever it does return.
Yeah, well, no, congratulations. It's a big deal. I know for just the kind of the PTQ level competitive players who haven't broken through yet, the big goal is to qualify for your first Pro Tour.
Yeah,
I remember I was in that spot a long time ago, and when you finally do it, it's great. It's really exciting.
It's awesome. I'm thrilled.
Are you aware of something that differently that you've been doing lately? Because 2 relatively big wins in a short span after years of just kind of, grinding along. Do you feel like did something different, or was it a fluke, or did you just kind of slowly approach a level of competence required to succeed in big events, and that just finally happened?
Yeah, a few things. Around last summer, around June or July or something like that, midsummer, I remember specifically I was house sitting for my aunt, and they have 3 dogs, and I found myself a lot of time because I couldn't really leave the house because the dogs were not the best behaved dogs. And so I found myself playing a lot of Magic Online, and I found myself sort of accumulating a couple of trophies and whatnot, and then I sort of just kept up the habit of just playing a lot of Magic Online during my free time, And then I think I got much better at the game, just my understanding of how the games play out, what matters, what doesn't matter, just really improved in that time frame. And it sort of happened around the fall. I started winning a lot of events. Nerd Rage had a weekend where they had 2 5Ks, and I chopped the quarters on Saturday and chopped the semis on Sunday, and that was sweet. And then I've just been doing well at the paper events since then. And then I haven't really had any tournament results on Moto for a while. I did okay in a couple challenges a while ago, but I hadn't done well in PTQ or whatever in over a year, and then I just sort of won the one last week, and it was sweet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that you'll find as you get older, and you play assuming you keep playing for a long time. Just sometimes there's just stretches that go by where you just don't do well, and it's like you want to find a reason for it, but sometimes it's just not happening, and sometimes you win 2 in a month. So congratulations to you.
Yeah,
now, you're a college student. How far along are you?
I'm a sophomore in college.
Okay, what are you studying? Where are you going?
I'm studying political science at Illinois State University.
Okay, political science. So I imagine you've had some interesting discussions at school over the past a few months. There's a lot going on there.
Yes, now, you could say that.
Now, for people who are in school, and now I wasn't when I was starting college. I wasn't I had played Magic, but I wasn't a competitive player at that point. But for people that are, and obviously many people do, I'm sure there are the competitive populace. A good chunk of it are students. Do you find which of these would you say is better, more descriptive of where you're at? Like the school you feel like school gets in the way of Magic, or do you feel like Magic gets in the way of school? Like what's kind of your, like, do you find yourself, your studies kind of trip up sometimes? Like, you don't need to be embarrassed about it. It happens to everybody. Or is it more like you find yourself short of you're not able to prepare as much as you want for Magic because of school?
I found myself with pretty much adequate time to do everything. I don't have like the best grades, but I think I have about a B average, and I am able to play quite a bit of Magic online and tournaments, and I'm able to go to all the tournaments I want. It was a little complicated to get to some tournaments because I used to be able to just tag a ride with a very large scene in Chicago. I could find somebody going to whatever GP or SCG, and it would be easy to get a ride. It became a little harder living in Bloomington, where there's lots of a scene, but Mappamonte also works for Nerd Rage Gaming, and he would drive me to a lot of the Nerd Rage CTs because, of course, he would be at all of them to commentate, so big thanks to him. I was able to keep playing competitive Magic in paper because I would just tag along with him. But yeah, that's the only real complication that's sort of arisen between the both of school and Magic, and things have just sort of worked out pretty well for me, I think.
Good for you. I mean, that's not easy. A lot of people screw up kind of their balance between work, school, gaming, whatever they're into. I know I certainly did not do a smooth job of it when I was younger. So good for you. That's impressive, and it's probably not all that common. Now, qualifying for your first Pro Tour.
Yes.
I have learned that you do not play a lot of Limited.
I do not play a lot of Limited.
Now, if you qualified for this Pro Tour that was just canceled, you would have lucked out because there was no Limited aspect. But
yes.
When we get back to normal, is that daunting to you, having to kind of
yeah.
not only just learn? Well, I'm sure you've played some Limited. Obviously, you haven't.
Of course,
done,
yeah.
But you haven't perhaps played it at a competitive high level. How's that kind of like? Is that daunting to you, or you think you'll be able to handle it? How do you feel with that on the maybe perhaps distant horizon?
It is absolutely very daunting. I just haven't played a lot of Limited Lifetime. I've just the vast majority of tournaments that I can play in are constructed, and so I'm playing more constructed. I think I'm better at constructed because of that. But I've had a couple friends who are very good drafters and Limited players reach out to me and say, hey, if you want to just draft with me or whatever, I would be happy to go through things with you and just talk about drafting in general, and just let me know. And I'm fortunate to have a network of some strong players and friends and stuff who can help me out when we get to there, assuming that there is Limited at that PT. Or even if there's not, I wouldn't hate learning it. It's a good skill to have, of course.
Sure. For players who are in Will's position, who haven't played a lot of Limited, really, if you want to get better, really the best two things to do are to either draft with people watching you or watch other people draft that you know, and the other is just to play a lot, obviously. But that's kind of I've become, certainly when I was if you go back a number of years, I was not a good Limited player. I wouldn't have even been thought of in a Limited conversation. Now I'm a fairly decent one, and the bulk of it is because I do my drafting for fun with people in the chat room, and at least some of the time we watch and talk about it. And then also, just playing a lot helps. if you want to step in now, Ikoria Limited is wild. It's exciting. There's a lot going on. Certainly, that's not a bad place to start. Okay, so anything else you want to say before we jump into the next match?
Nothing in particular.
Okay.
I'm just yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for chatting about yourself. And maybe when we get to the end of the show, if those of you watching have questions for Will, you can send them. You can type in the chat. A little later on, after we've done the second match, he and I will both be available to answer questions you might have. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and go to our second match of the night. So we have a slide available for Charles Martin Jr., who is one of the players in our second match. He's going to be playing against Jarman names. And Charles is a 29-year-old CPA who lives in Grace Lake, Illinois. And as a CPA, he's probably someone who actually is able to continue working during this pandemic that we're experiencing right now. He's got a couple top 8s during the New Rage series. So congratulations to him. And he has played on a Pro Tour. So imagine that, Will, in a very short, well, let me rephrase that. In a short time after this whole mess is over with, your slide will also include Pro Tour wherever.
All right, that is sweet.
So Charles Martin Jr. playing against Jarman names. Let's go ahead and check out our deck lists for match number 2. We have Charles playing Black-White Doom Foretold, which is a little wild.
All right.
So there's a lot going on here. This is a deck that we didn't really see, maybe on the super casual end of things, before Ikoria was released. And you can see there's a lot of cards in this deck list, and I will tell you that I was given these deck lists earlier, and I went through them, and I messaged our director, Max Kahn, and I was like, just so you know, you messed up the deck list because I don't really seriously think that Charles is playing this many lands. And while I was typing the message, I glanced at the sideboard and I was like, wait a minute, I'm wrong. This is an 80-card deck. He is playing this many lands.
Yes. This is a Yorion deck. This is a card that I'm very excited about for Eternal formats and even Standard.
Yeah, this is really kind of, so if you're kind of coming back into Pioneer and not played much of Ikoria yet, which I'm sure you've heard about this anyway, but we'll go over it anyway. Yorion Sky Nomad is a 5-mana blue-white hybrid 4/5 flyer. When it comes to play, you can blink any number of non-land permanents that you control, which there are a lot of them in this deck, and you can play it effectively from your sideboard by just giving up a sideboard slot. So what's going on here? We have just, I can't believe I can actually say this, dozens of permanents that generate advantage.
Yeah, we got a lot of permanents here that, of course, they enter the battlefield and they do something, which is exactly how you want to capitalize on Yorion. Like Thraben Inspector, you can blank that and you get a clue. Trial of Ambition, I believe, is the black trial and makes them sacrifice a creature. Oath of Kaya is nice. It plays exactly how you want to play. It's just a removal spell that stabilizes you, and this deck is, of course, a deck that wants things to go long. While Blinking Treacherous Blessing is kind of sweet, too. Just draw 3 cards. Sure, why not?
Blink Demonic Pact, you get to start over, and also, importantly, not kill yourself.
Yes. Not dying to your own pact is great.
The win conditions in this deck look a little sparse. We have 4 Thraben Inspectors, which aren't going to do much damage. We have 2 Murderous Riders. That's not going to amount to a whole lot. And then we have the Yorion. But that's it for the creatures. We also have 8 enchantments that can do 3 or more damage. And then we also have Starfield Nyx, which is kind of the new, less messed up Opalescence, which allows our enchantments to all turn into creatures once we have 5 of them in play. Also, Starfield Nyx allows, if in a, I don't know whether this is kind of a rarely seen case, or if it actually happens a lot, where you can actually, when your Demonic Pact activates, you could kill it to save yourself from dying to the fourth activation. So there's a lot going on here. Flicker of Fate can reset all these things. Yorion can reset all these things. This deck, if you don't know what's coming, this deck would be kind of a puzzle to play against, as you'd be hard pressed. I would be, at least, to realize what all the different cards were coming. Now, deck lists were open in this event, so Jarman names didn't have to worry about that, and he brought. Let's take a look at his deck. So Jarman Names is playing Blue-White Devotion, and very heavy emphasis on the white part of that. This is a deck that White Devotion obviously existed and was a mainstay in Pioneer pre-Ikoria. This is another Yorion deck, and yes, when I was writing to Max earlier, I actually said 2 of the deck list lands are messed up, but they were both both Yorion decks. And again, we have, this is not quite, the Yorion isn't doing as much work here as it is in Charles' deck, but it's still going to be good. We have just a whole plethora of stuff that clogs up the board, generates some advantage, and then we still have the combo kill like we did previously. However, we're not going to hit it as often just because we're playing 20 more cards than we used to.
Yeah, this is certainly something. A Yorion Mirror is not something I've had the pleasure of playing yet, but these decks are, of course, typically very grindy, so I assume we're in for a bit of a long one here. But it looks pretty sweet. I'm not sure who's advantage. I'm not sure who can grind better. But this Charming Prince these Charming Princes that Jarman has, going to give him a huge edge, because what you can do with Charming Prince is you can blink it with Yorion, and then Charming Prince blinks the Yorion, and then if you have any other ETB guy, like Arcanist's Owl or Thraben Inspector or whatever, you just get to do that on all of your end steps. And it's just, that's an insane amount of value if you can't kill a 2/2. And Charles' deck is okay at killing 2/2s, but not, like, phenomenal. Like, he's got, like, 4 Oath of Kaios and some Trial of Ambitions, but, like, that's not a given that that's going to work on the Charming Prince. So that seems to be Jarman's best path to me, or just comboing him. But, again, 80 cards, 2-card combo is not the most likely thing, especially without any, like, cantrip or whatever, unless you count the Owl.
Yeah, no tutoring in here. We do have, there's another thing, the Liliana's Nightmare, yeah, also, I believe that's the right name for the Saga, that also can kill the Prince, but yeah. There's a number of things. The Trial is not going to reliably kill it, and also the Prince. It's not like he needs to come down early. It can come down anytime and generate back with things to blink. So this is, yeah. I'm not going to ask you to make a prediction on who's going to win this, because I wouldn't want to have to make that choice either. I'm excited to see how it plays out, though. Let's go ahead and get game one started.
Yeah, I'm just excited to watch how this plays out. It looks like it's going to be pretty cool.
It looks like it might last a while too.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a long one. The Yorion decks are all very grindy decks, just by nature.
Okay, so let's get things started. Looks like...
Okay, it looks fine for Charles.
We have the names overlaid over the Magic Online screen names on the readout, so I can't actually tell who's going first yet.
Charles is going first.
Okay, Charles is going first. Well, this hand looks hopefully fine. We do need to draw a land, but one gets us to the Blessing. Yeah, one gets us to the Blessing, which gets us to the Pact, which gets us...
We can Flicker the Pact. Just one land gets this whole hand unlocked, so... Yeah. We have early defensive tools with the Trial, and if you miss your land for a turn or two, it's not even, like, that big of a deal.
Possibly. This is one thing about playing an 80-card deck. You're definitely, there's going to be obviously a lot more variance than we're used to. So sometimes we're going to flood out. We're probably going to flood out more and get lands stuck more often. But in this case, it's going to work out just fine. Trial's going to take out the Thraben Inspector, and then all our power cards are turned on.
Yeah, good play. A lot of players wouldn't just fire off a Trial of Ambition here, but Charles is aware that the Trial is going to get the Thraben Inspector anyway, so there's no reason to let himself take the damage and burn the mana here, more importantly. Mm-hmm. The third land was an awesome pickup, just having the Treacherous Blessing online next turn, ready to be flickered, or we'll flicker the Pact or whatever.
Yeah, we can flicker the Trial. These flickers do an unbelievable amount of work in this deck.
Yes.
Daxos comes down. Daxos is definitely a nice card to have in general. Provides some devotion. Is a great blocker, which is not going to be required in this matchup.
No, it's not even the card that Jarman is really looking for here. He's really looking for cards that replace themselves or provide value in some way, and Daxos is just going to die to a removal spell at some point, one would assume. Mm-hmm. But, you're going to play it if it's what you got, right? Yeah.
So it also is, if Jarman has his other 2-drop here, we may see he would play Daxos first and play the Knight of the White Orchid second, so you can pick up a free land drop here. Let's see. And he does have it.
Absolutely.
So this is good. This is nice because Charles is already looking like he's just going to run away in the card advantage department. So this will pull Jarman. I mean, it pulls him a free card, allows the clue to come out faster if he wants. No, okay, that's not going to happen. But still, we're online. Okay, hit both of our land drops for the turn. Well, 1 free, 1 plus the land drop for the turn, and attacking for 2, which is, I mean, there's cards in Charles' deck that damage himself, but it's not going to matter. His life total is going to be fairly well protected, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I would imagine we're going to get Doom Foretold down here, because Demonic Pact can, I mean, it's either Doom Foretold or Demonic Pact, I believe are the 2 options you have this turn. I think everything else is pretty bad, but this lets you sack your blessing sooner and stuff, and we have plenty of permanents to sacrifice, so we can sort of break the symmetry a little bit. Charles is pretty Jarman is pretty likely to have to sacrifice like a real permanent, like a creature, as opposed to like a trial or a treacherous blessing that you want to sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, we're already at that point. There's no, the Thraben Inspector is the number 1 card you want to sacrifice, and it's already gone.
Yep, because we made him sacrifice it to the trial. Yeah, Thraben is really nice in matchups where your opponents are playing with edicts of any kind, just as a permanent, just to get rid of that you didn't care about, and replace itself for a trivial mana investment.
Okay, so we'll see what decides to go. Okay, it's neither White Orchid. That makes sense. It's certainly worse than the Daxos on the board. The other option would have been the Clue. We have a Nykthos, which is just a land at this point in the game, and now Yorion is castable. I didn't necessarily expect to see it there, but it is, casting is online, and Doom Foretold gets bounced.
Okay, it seems fine.
Yeah, that controls the board a little bit. Also,
okay, we can sacrifice that now.
Yeah, also Jarman's aware that Charles was perfectly happy to sacrifice the blessing, and now he's going to have to leave it on the board for a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's going to allow Jarman to sort of capitalize on the tax of Treacherous Blessing, right? If he can maybe bounce the Doom Foretold again next turn, pressure the life total with the Daxos.
Mm-hmm. And Birth of Meletis is great at generating stuff.
Yes.
Sacrifice Doom Foretold, including the ability to sacrifice it itself.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he won't be able to sack the wall just yet. So he might have to sacrifice the Birth this turn just because you... Okay, you can't sacrifice tokens. Never mind. I did not realize that, so we couldn't sacrifice the wall anyway, so we're just going to sacrifice the Birth here, I assume.
Maybe. Well, we're not going to have a choice if the Fatal Push wipes out the...
Sure, yeah.
So, since Birth of Meletis triggers on effectively on the... I believe it's not the draw step even, it's the beginning of the main phase. Maybe it is the draw step. I can't remember that effectively there's no difference here, but it's going to be after the Doom Foretold triggers. So this does go down. And I do not envy Jarman names his position here. Obviously we can't see his hand as we're on Charles's perspective, but from Charles's side, things are looking good.
Yeah, starting with a Clue activation is exactly what you'd want to see from Charles, right? Your opponent is just guaranteed to not be able to make use of all the mana they had access to this turn, and they're just looking to find some kind of value card. But competing with this Doom Foretold is going to be an issue, just looking at it. Like, I don't know how Jarman can really deal with this. If the game is going to go like 10 more turns or whatever, Charles is just going to be able to get such a huge advantage from the trigger every turn and then just kill him with the Nites you get.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much advantage. The Demonic Pact hasn't even come down yet, and that's a card has massive swings on the game, and really, I mean, it has a significant drawback. But if you can get around that, which this deck is clearly designed to do, it's just going to take over the game by itself.
Yeah, not only do we have the Flicker in hand, we have the Yorion in the command zone to just reset everything, including the Blessing. Charles might just sacrifice a trial here because he wants to see Yorion or Flicker his Blessing later, and he doesn't care too much about the life.
Years ago, when Demonic Pact was first printed, I actually went, I believe it was in Chicago. I went to an open in Chicago because I was so excited about this Demonic Pact deck that my friend and I had built when the card was new, and it didn't work particularly well, or at least didn't go well. But I've always been enamored with the potential of the card.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to make look very good. Okay, so we are going to sacrifice the Blessing. We have access to plenty of cards, so that's probably fine. Mm-hmm. And our life total isn't like the highest, right? I mean, we don't actually have a clean answer to Yorion, so it's fine because that could actually kill us as a 4/5.
Well, we may have an answer to Yorion at some point as we I mean, we can flicker the trial at some point as long as we can keep the board clear, which it seems likely that we can. So I don't know there's
Yeah,
a
that's
lot.
fair.
There's a lot of moving parts in Charles' deck here.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Every sign seems to point to him being in pretty good shape.
Yeah, this looks incredible for Charles. He just looks to be very far ahead. This Doom Foretold is just really brutal against the blue-white deck.
Okay, so Teferi bites the dust. And now Jarman with a Nykthos on the board and no colored permanents, which is he's got plenty of mana, but yeah, what do you do here? I mean, Yorion is no value. It's just a creature that Charles will have no trouble killing.
I have no idea what he could do to get back into this game. I mean, he probably needs to start with now he needs a backup permanent, right? Otherwise, he has to sacrifice that. And it has to be one that doesn't get got by the demonic deck trigger. But that is a start, right? Just punking Charles with the combo.
Yeah, I mean we're not there yet, right? We need.
Okay, so we have the combo, but this demonic pact will interrupt it, I believe. I think his plan was to do it on the upkeep, but we're gonna go ahead and just deal 4 to this ballista, I assume, right? And then make him sacrifice the Heliod.
Yeah, to clarify what Will was saying, when he said the upkeep, he meant Jarman was trying to win on his own upkeep.
Yes.
But we're not going to get that far with both permanents on the board. I
mean, you got to wonder, like, this game was pretty likely to go on for quite a few turns. If Jarman had waited until he just had 2 more lands, he would have been able to do it all in 1 turn, or just 1 idyllic range.
It still would have been tough because of the Flicker of Fate, but Jarman Jarman doesn't know about that.
No.
But you're right. What he did, he knew wasn't like he has knowledge of what he did.
On board, it doesn't work. So it's just like,
Now, I mean, maybe he has another ballista in his hand, and so this is an attempt to just keep the hero on the board.
I mean, we sacrificed the Heliod to the Doom, right? Because we kill the ballista.
That is what it looks like we're doing, yeah. So
and we're gonna get him Hellbent here, so he doesn't even get. Yeah, so we just get all of his cards, all of his permanents. He's left with, I believe, 7 mana. He's got access to a Yorion, but Charles has access to his Yorion, which is gonna be way better because we have. I guess we only have Pact, but we have Pact going and this Doom Foretold. Yeah,
completely unfair. The trial was then sacrificed after, so the trial blinked in and out, or blinked out and in, and then got sacrificed to the Doom Foretold after the hand was cleared away. And we have Doom Foretold.
Savage.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Getting everything, every card, mind rot your last 2 cards, kill both your permanents.
This is like Pox in Legacy, or
it is.
Braids Cabal Minion on the board, your opponent just can't keep up, and what are they going to do? I'm still out like kind of bad fringe unplayable versions of the same thing, and Charles is doing it in Pioneer. Good for him.
Yeah, so that was sweet.
Game 1 in overwhelming fashion, I think would be fair to say.
Yeah.
So let's look at Jarman named sideboard first, as he's the one that needed to catch up a little bit there. We have 3 Mystical Disputes, 2 Gideon the Trials, 2 Gideon Interventions, 2 Isolates. Good for him. Isolate is kind of my pet card. I love it, although I have been targeting it in Modern, and we're seeing it here in Pioneer. But, if that works out, I may have to start playing white in my Lotus Breach just to be able to cast it. 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Tomic, Distinguished Advocate, and Erase, and then the Yorion, which is, again, technically in the sideboard. So what do we want here to deal with kind of this just board munching nonsense that came out from the other side of the board? What do we like?
So I think what we learned in that game is that Jarman really needs to pressure Charles, right? Because I think if the game goes a million turns, then it's going to favor Charles 9 times out of 10, unless Jarman can establish the Charming Prince Yorion loop uninterrupted. But Charles has enough answers to that where it's unreliable, I believe. So Gideon of the Trials looks good to me, right? Just as a 3-mana 4/4 that can just allow you to stick with the plan of turn 2 play Knight of the White Orchid or Anafenza or Daxos or whatever. Turn 3 play Gideon and just pressure you. You want to take your turn 4 off for Doom Foretold? That's fine. I'll sack my Thraben Inspector and hit you down to 5 or whatever, and it's just not going to do enough because you're just not going to have enough time to get value out of the triggers. Similarly, from Charles's perspective, he needs to not get punked by that. And so I'm looking at cards like his one Shatter the Sky and the two Kaya's Wraths seem quite good to me. If Jarman's plan is just to play his Daxos, his Anafenza, et cetera, and just try to beat down, then exactly what we want to do is just rat the board, right, and let the game just sort of come to you, because every turn that goes by is just favorable for Charles, I believe, just looking at it.
Yeah, and this is to be tough because you're talking about like, oh, we have 2 gains we can bring in to increase the pressure, but this is 2 gains in an 80-card deck.
Yeah, we're not particularly likely to get there to try to get in, right?
This is so tough. I mean, we can bring in Erase, to pick off one of these enchantments, and we can bring in Atomics just to have more attackers, but it's gonna be rough.
Atomic attacking is not the worst plan if you think that it's really bad for you if the game goes on long, which I think is an accurate assessment after.
I think it's really bad for him if the game goes on long, yeah. And so over here in Charles' side, we have Deicides, which can break up the Jarman's combo.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems another way that Jarman could win is just assembling his combo. But the problem with relying on the combo is that, again, you're playing 80 cards, so it's just like. Spyglass also does that, so maybe you want access to that if you think that's one of the few ways that you lose, right?
Sure, Spyglass, and then we're playing against another. Maybe we bring in Underworld Connections because we think the game's I don't know what matchup we feel like we're not going to have enough cards in, and obviously Charles' sideboard is designed. We have more Wraths, we have more removal, and then we have combo hate. So. Yeah, mid-range, long-game stuff. I guess we'll bring in a token, Underworld Connections, and some more removal, and just run from there.
Sure.
I would want to be on Charles' side of this.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I definitely would want to take the deck that just goes a little bit more over the top than the other grindy deck, right? Just traditionally, like the deck that's just got like a little bit more is gonna get there. But like if you have like a lot more, then they get under you. You know what I mean? But we've just a little more. Yeah,
but. Is this a little more? I feel like this is a lot more, but we don't have to worry about it going under because we have sweep. This is
maybe I'm just underestimating this. Maybe it's more of a situation of like the Heliod deck's tools just don't line up right? Like
this is a rough road for Jarman to have to get through here. Okay, so let's go down and check out game 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are we even hoping for? We had the mana ramp, the advantage from the Night of the Orchid. We can't even have that this time. We can certainly see Charles is going to be taking a mulligan this game.
Yeah, this hand is, of course, unkeepable. 1 land and just a bunch of top end. Okay, this hand looks much better. We have 3 lands, 4 spells. It's exactly what we're looking for. They all cost 3 or less. Sounds great.
This looks good. I wonder, do we put back Trial or do we put back the second Elspeth's Nightmare?
I'd be a little interested in putting back the second Elspeth's Nightmare, just because you have so many 3s. It's going to be a little awkward for you to deploy them all. But Charles decides that, or I guess he's still deciding, but he was looking at the Trial of Ambition. Okay, goes to the Oath of Kaya. Okay, sure. I think that's reasonable too, just because you value the 2 for 1 out of the Nightmare.
Yeah, I didn't expect it, but that's fine. So we had Jarman take a mulligan also. So both players were on 6 this game, as you can see by the fact that they both have 74 cards in their deck.
Neither boarded up to 81. Good for them. Okay, Thoughts is a nice pickup. I think I would still play the Shambling Vent tapped here.
Sure, yeah, we're not going to be run out by any 2-drop in this matchup, and we can still hit the Gideon on next turn.
Right. This Castle Lockthway and Caves of Coil's Shambling Vent draw is not, not ideal, but it doesn't look like we're going to have our 2 mana necessary next turn, so we can just.
There's only so much you do when you have to fit. Yeah. To fit an 80-card deck. You may have to run some, not ideal dueling. No, this is nice. Not going down this turn. Let's see. Okay, we're going to Thoughtseize, which means, we're going to play the Castle tap.
I think it's a pretty good tap land, Thoughtseize turn. Oh, yeah, definitely taking this Heliod, and then we can just kill this Charming Prince with one of our, whatever removal spell Charles chooses to use, presumably a Nightmare, just to get the mana down and get the discard. Threatened, but the discard actually isn't great if Jarman's out of spells to play. But if he draws like a 5 or 6 mana spell, that could get Thoughtseize, right?
Right. So these Elspeth's Nightmares may just be 1-for-1s, which is not ideal. But again, that's probably fine because Charles can go 1-for-1 on the front half and then just blow the game away once he draws his powerful enchantments. The ones that cost 3, still also 3 and 4 mana. Charming Prince, Blinking Inspector. That's nice.
Yeah, that Thraben was a really nice pickup. It's basically worth 2 clues here as opposed to the like scry we would have gotten out of. So it's 2 clues versus a scry that we would have gotten out of the Charming Prince otherwise, I assume.
Yeah,
so that Jarman wouldn't gain 3 life with in this matchup, where we're not winning until turn 25 or whatever.
Yeah, this is a really significant difference. Instead of scrying 2, we're going to draw 2. I mean, it costs more mana, but that's obviously just mana is not valuable in this matchup, as we're just going to have plenty of time to use it all, and so just more cards is better. Also, we can draw at the end of the turn probably to avoid having to show off to the Elspeth's Nightmare what it is.
Oh, that Heliod is a very nice draw. And now we know the Elspeth's Nightmare isn't going to get any value because I believe his 1 card in hand now is Nykthos. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was great. We don't have to correct the clues yet to give him options with the Nightmare. This looks awesome. Yeah, I mean not awesome because we do need to draw like a Ballista at some point, but we've got a lot of looks at it and a lot of time. Oh, good, another land that needs a swamp to be in play and are untapped. Awesome.
Well, yeah. All right. So let's see. We're gonna play. Are we gonna play Birth Meldus and just pick up Plains here?
Yeah, I think that's fine, and then just go ahead and get the trial down would probably be my play. Just so that way you have as much mana next turn. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is lining up pretty awkwardly, and if everyone ever draws a Ballista, then there are some issues for Charles. But yeah, just guarantee your land drop for next turn. Seems fine to me. And play the trial. Not like we could play the Pact, and I'd rather trial this than Nightmare, I believe.
Yeah, that works out fine. And then, the Pact looks. I mean, in the past, looking at this Pact, you would say, "Oh, well, there's some risk to this. It generates a bunch of events, but you could die." But we have Yorion on layaway to whenever we want it, so the Pact is actually safe for quite a long time.
Yeah, guaranteed. Having a guaranteed way to blink your Pact is just great because it means you get 6 activations out of the Pact, I believe, because you get the first 3 twice and them again. So that gives you 2 draw triggers, so that's 4, and then all of the draw steps you get for all those turns. Yeah. So that's 8 looks at another way to reset it or sacrifice it or whatever. Or just that gives you 6 turns to kill them.
Yeah, it's actually it's 10 cards, I believe, because you draw 2 twice and then you have 6 draw steps, right?
Oh, so you're right. Yeah, 10. Yeah.
10 cards. So that's like almost like, I mean, I'm a little fuzzy on the math here, but that's like 2% of your 80 card deck or something. So really, you have a reasonable chance of getting out of this. Not 2%. The Pact is going to come down here.
Yeah, and if Charles does somehow run out of resources, we have a Castle Lochthwain, which is a huge advantage.
I feel like we haven't even done very much, and we've completely taken over the game again.
Yeah, we've just kind of done, like, neither player's really done anything, but the game is just going to go on for so long because both decks are just filled with so much, like, air. Nobody's really doing anything proactive, and so, like, the Pact is just going to threaten to take over in games like that, right, where it just goes until turn 30 or 40. Like, last game, I don't know how fast Charles would have killed him, but if Jarman didn't concede, it would have probably taken 10 more turns for Charles to kill him, even though the game was wrapped up 5 turns prior to Jarman conceding.
I think that's my instinct also on first glance. I think that's a little unreasonable because Yorion and Pact triggers and stuff, it's going to, I mean...
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
It's not fast, but it's not 10 turns.
Yeah, you can't get there. Yeah. You're right. I'm probably being a little hyperbolic here.
And that's fair. I'm just calling on it because I have nothing else to say right now because Charles just setting up his domination again and there's not much else going on here.
Yeah. Owl turning on Heliod alone is pretty nice. That's all you need to turn him on, make a 5/5.
Yeah. When you're new to the format, that is something that that caught me by surprise. Like, there's a Heliod by itself. That's nothing to worry about. And then one card comes down and attacks. I was like, what? How does that work?
Yeah, but we do get to shoot it here or draw 2 cards. I'm not really sure what Charles is going to do here. You could just Mind Rot Jarman. There's a lot of ways to go. I think any of the options that aren't you lose are defensible.
Yeah. Yes. Well, certainly we don't want to pick that one.
Yeah, do not pick that one. The real ones are good.
If we had a Mindslaver effect in this format, I believe we could just choose to have ourselves die if we were to control the opponent's turn.
Yeah. We have Emrakul the Promised Lands. That is the thing that could happen.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be sick. That is a thing that could realistically happen. That's a card that was in the bug deck that we saw earlier today.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why the Elspeth's Nightmare's in the deck, to make the Emrakul cost more, so that you're less likely to get burned by that.
Sure.
All right, so yeah, 2 cards stripped from hand.
Yeah, I like the cycle and response there from Jarman. Just get more information.
Yeah.
Before he discards. Oh yeah, 2 very relevant life off of this Birth of Meletus.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume we're just blinking. Are we just gonna Yorion and? No, we probably want to save the Yorion. You probably just want to Flicker of Fate this trial and get rid of the Owl.
That's reasonable. Also, let's see. There's some options here.
Yeah, just passing seems fine, and then we can draw. We can like Flicker, and then we can draw with Castle, and then we get to draw with Pact, and then we can reset it if we want with Yorion.
Yeah, it definitely is appealing to wait and try to get max value from the Pact, but I don't feel super comfortable with his Elliott on the board. I mean, the odds of Jarman drawing Ballista are...
Yeah, that could just happen at any point and end the game.
Yeah.
That might even be what this is. Who knows? Okay, it's not.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, we're going to probably... If we're planning on doing this anyway, then we want to do it just on the off chance that it names Flicker of Fate, which doesn't seem likely, but...
I would be amazed if Jarman was going to name Flicker of Fate there. Yeah. That would be... I can't imagine that A, it's the right play, or B, it was the play that Jarman was going to make.
Yeah. However,
I assume we're naming Yorion.
Yeah. Right. You know, Yorion seems like an easy card to name because you know it's waiting. It's the same as Meddling Mage now has gotten a lot stronger because of companions in every format, because you know.
Yeah, you're just like, this is off.
Yeah, it's waiting to play. Okay, so Arcanist Owl goes down, Gideon's Intervention comes in, and we'll name a card that cannot do damage or be cast.
Yeah, I assume we're just going to shut off the Yorions here, because it is one-sided. It is only your opponents, so that would give Jarman a leg up there. Okay, so we name Starfield next.
Okay, so that is a card that matters. It gets enchantments back from the graveyard, which there are some. It's also a 2 of in the deck, I think. So
yeah, I don't love the name personally. Yeah. How do you feel about it, Joe?
It wouldn't have been my first choice, but I'm not the one that's sitting here having to play against this deck in round 1 of a tournament and saying, you know, even if I knew what was going on, and this is open deck lists, I'm still kind of just beside myself trying to figure out the interactions of all these cards. And Starfield is, you know, if the Deicides didn't come in, and if the Gideon's Intervention couldn't get removed, and Starfield was the only win condition besides the Yorion, and we had a removal spell for the Yorion, then maybe we just won.
Sure.
That's not realistic in any sense of the word, but certainly can slow things down. It cuts off one aspect of what Charles is doing, which, I mean, to be fair to Jarman here, Charles, there's any number of cards that Jarman could name here, and we could argue he was correct, and he'd still be wrong, because there's just too much variety.
Yeah, I mean, it's so insane. Like, there's so many different things. I think I would have just gone for Yorion, because it's guaranteed that Charles is going to want to do that at some point. I mean, you know that he has access to it.
Yeah, especially if we name Yorion and there's no other draw, then Demonic Pact would actually. Did we reach the point now where
I think we're just going to Yorion?
No. But what I'm saying is, if we had named Yorion, would the game end right now? Would this?
I think it would, right?
Yeah.
I believe it would be over if we had named this Yorion. I mean, Charles would be forced to activate this clue, right?
Right.
That's what would happen.
Yeah. But this is definitely that would have been a route to a possible victory. And when you're kind of getting buried the way Jarman is, you know, if there's a slim chance that you can steal a win by doing something like that, you know, sometimes you just got to do it. You know, from my perspective, this one I'm playing the Lotus Breach deck, using your turn to Fae of Wishes for Tome Scour to Tome Scour your opponent so you don't get killed by the
inverter combo, the chase.
The next turn. That stinks. That's not a play you want to do, but sometimes if you're just getting buried, you kind of have to and just hope.
You just randomly bunk them? Like...
Yeah. You hope that, well, it costs them another turn and then you draw out of it, even though it doesn't seem like a great play. And here, maybe, you know, we don't, well, we don't know what that clue is going to draw, but if we name your, and this could also be an experience thing. We're looking back. We're not stressed because we're not playing in the match.
Right.
Well, I'm experiencing a different kind of stress because I'm nervous about doing this whole broadcast and this being the first night. But as far as the game goes, we're not in the game, so we're able to look at it more effectively and not kind of have to focus on that. And yeah, maybe that would have been a way to steal the game.
Yeah, it's certainly much harder to play. Like it's much easier to play backseat Magic or just spectate and comment on what they should have done or whatever. Especially when you can see. I mean, we can see Charles's hand.
Yeah. So we knew. Yeah, because also there was Charles could have a card in hand that would. Right. Also, he could have another Flicker of Fate to bounce the Demonic Pact, and then you name Yorion and didn't really do anything.
Right. So don't mean to harp on him too hard.
No, yeah. It's. I mean, I am trying to establish the fact that.
I'm saying I agree.
May have made choices here that weren't ideal from our perspective.
Right.
I don't know how realistic it is that we would have made the correct choices in his place at this point, and certainly it's possible he's never played against this deck before.
Yeah.
And it's just also we may be early enough in kind of the history of companions, however long that may last, depending on bannings in the upcoming future, where the first thing in your mind isn't a companion. You don't even think about it right away. I mean, that's possible.
Right. So, I've forgotten that I have my own companion plenty of times, honestly. Like, I had to start playing with on Magic Online, I started just playing with it on the revealed zone. I just have it, like, on the battlefield, just because I just see it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, too. And I do it for my opponents. I pop out theirs just so I remember that it's there. So, here we have Demonic Pact triggering again to draw 2, and now this is our first trigger off it, so we're completely safe. The board is more cluttered for the creatures than it's been any time during the match, but there's no real threat to the life total here, as there's plenty of potential blockers, and there's more removal than anything else going on.
So, Charles's first priority is probably just finding a way to actually make sure we don't die to this pact, right? Because it's going to be kind of difficult to win the game in time through this Heliod potentially gaining life and the Yorions bouncing off each other.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have a way to reset the pack right now, right?
No, he does have. Yeah, he has Castle. What could we do? We could Wrath and we could attack with Shambling Vent just to push a little damage through, but that's okay. We're gonna draw. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we really want to find like a Flicker of Fate here. Would be awesome. Treacherous Blessing doesn't quite do it. Doom Foretold would do it because we could sack the pact when it gets around to it.
I mean, we could just Ancestral here and hold up double Fatal Push because if the Ballista was drawn, we could
we have double push to fight over that so we can win.
I don't know if you mentioned this or not. If you did, I missed it. But when Jarman's Yorion got cast, the Guardian Intervention changed and is now naming Oath of Kaya.
It did do that. I do not fully understand that play. Maybe he's concerned about getting burned out, and he's now on the kill you with your own pact plan, and one of Charles's ways to burn is Oath, I suppose.
I mean, that's possible. That's certainly a line of reasoning. So let's see. There are just a lot of choices in this deck on some of these turns where it seems like sometimes you get so far ahead you just kind of you just play play something, build up more advantage. But there are a lot of options on most of Charles's turns here. Maybe there are on Jarman's also. We just don't have access to them because we're playing from Charles's perspective. Like for this turn, okay, we went with the Wrath. We could have played Treacherous Blessing and held up the double Fatal Push. Can't talk right now. You take over for a minute.
With the land played there, Jarman actually could have killed with the Ballista. He plays it on 2, then he has 4 left over to fight over push, but we just don't have the Ballista, and we couldn't have even drawn it there off the farmland because of the push, because Charles would push in response to the lifelink activation. But we didn't have it, so now we're safe again, and we do get to get Jarman's last 2 cards with this pact. And then we get to crack our clue, draw 3 with Blessing. We've got a lot of looks at resetting this pact, although it's certainly not guaranteed here.
Well, let's forget drawing up the clue. Let's just, we'll Ancestral first. We may as well spend.
Yeah. You should Blessing first, for sure.
We still have one more mode to go also, right? We haven't used the shoot, I don't think.
Yeah, we haven't shot for 4.
Yeah, so we've got, well, not a lot of time, but a little, and we have, okay, Deicide, unless it,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, this doesn't really do anything for our pact, right?
Deicide is an enchantment. Can it not hit our own stuff?
Oh, I didn't know you could hit your own stuff.
Oh, you may not be able to. I have not played this card in some time.
All right. I have Googled it. It is XL target enchantment.
Yeah.
Okay, we are good.
Yeah. So we do have the ability to kill Heliod, and actually, we can strip them from the deck, I believe.
I think we need to save it for our own packs, right?
I agree. I would not fire it off right now.
Yeah, if we draw another way to blink our pack, though, then yeah, it's fine to use the DSI like that.
Oh wow! I wonder if we had. There's no. So with the shot for 4 left over as the other option, if we would have played Shambling Event this turn, we actually had 8 damage on the board.
Did we?
2 Shambling Events and
we only have 1 vent, right?
I'm sorry?
Don't we only have 1 vent?
That's what I'm saying. If we'd played the second one that's in our hand.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that actually would have been pretty good if we had shot for 4, but we wouldn't have drawn the Shambling Vent, right?
Did we draw it on the Blessing, right?
Oh, I see. We'd already drawn. Okay, yeah. So we would actually have lethal lined up here, but I think we're gonna be fine regardless because we just can decide our own pact here and hit them down to 2 and have 2 lethal vents.
I was focused on something else, so I may have messed up. Maybe the land had already been played before the Shambling Event was drawn. I'm not going to criticize Charles too much for that because I'm not sure, but
I don't remember exactly, but either way, this game looks to be pretty set up. We have 2 lethal attackers next turn. I guess this Castle Ardenvale is kind of an issue, but we can just push this and still deicide to set up lethal. It's fine.
So this is going to. Well, we don't even have to necessarily waste. I guess we.
No, we don't push here. We need double push for the combo to cover bliss outs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to do.
So it's Ballista off the top, and then playing around the right map. There's 1 fatal push left. Let's see. So if we have, how much mana do we have? 1, 2. Okay, what do we got? 4 is how many Ballista would cost? Oh my god!
Oh wow! Did we? So we have to draw a way to answer our own pack. So we have to decide the.
We have to draw another. You're right. Oh my goodness. We drew Sorcerer's Fight.
We're dead, right?
I don't think this is going to cut it. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, the cards are in the deck, so you can draw them. And Ballista was the ideal draw here for Jarman, and he may steal this game. He, in fact, looks like he will.
I think the game is ended. Yeah. I don't.
Deicide can pick off the Heliod to allow Charles to survive the turn, but then Charles' Demonic Pact will kill him on his upkeep.
Yeah, we can survive the combo, but then we lose to the pact. So there we go. All right, we hit our 4 and 59. Pretty good.
Charles kind of sitting here frozen, like, how did this actually happen? Hold on, let me think about this. And I get that. When you feel like you're way ahead and then it's going to be stolen from you, you stop and think, wait, am I missing something? Am I actually dead?
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
It feels like we could have navigated this in a way to. It feels like this game could have been over on either side before this, but I mean, like he's gonna go for the push here, but this pact is just gonna be lethal, right?
Mm-hmm. Also, but he's still dead this turn anyway. The combo's still gonna win because this combo.
Yeah. We just have 2 more mana, so we're dead in multiple ways.
So certainly one thing that stands out is that we cracked that clue and drew Spyglass. If we'd done that main phase and cast the Spyglass, then we would be able to. We wouldn't have had the mana, right? We would have had to forgo something else we did, the vent activation. We're casting push on the stack right now, and we have 1 mana untapped.
But then we wouldn't have deicide mana, right?
Right, but we would have had. You're right. We couldn't have done that because then we'd have died to the pact also.
Yeah, because we can't decide in response to.
You're right. So that would not have worked, which is why Charles didn't do it. But okay, so then we have.
All right. The Ballista in the graveyard? Okay.
Whoa.
I don't understand how the Ballista got in the graveyard.
but Charles is dead to his pack trigger anyway, so it's fine.
Oh my goodness. No.
Wait, but we were dead to the pack trigger?
Jarman
scoop.
Jarman conceded because he. So if we can backtrack. So, okay.
Did he time out?
Just wrap my head around what just happened. Jarman messed up on his. Potentially, this is what happened. Jarman messed up on the ballista and let it die, and he messed up. Let it die, and then conceded because either we're wrong or he didn't realize the demonic pact was lethal on the next turn, which I believe was the case. So
yeah,
okay. That's the end of the match. Charles Martin Jr. wins somewhat unexpectedly at the end of that game.
Certainly a way for that to end.
So, okay, here's the players to watch, and then we'll go back and talk about that match a little bit more. So, notable players in round one of this event, which includes both of us. And so now we have some information about the whole tournament. Lewis Kaplan, Will Krueger, myself, and John Philip Whetstone and Andrew Waltice won the first round. Justin Brickman and Zoe Riederman unfortunately lost. So there's kind of where we're going at. We're in the event, and boy, I'm still trying to digest what just happened there. This is something,
that was
and this can happen. Like this, there's no. I mean,
I've made worse mistakes than that in my life, man.
Everybody has. Everyone has. That's kind of something where, especially when the match is covered and you're watching it run back. Jarman, I don't know if Jarman's watching tonight or watching replay at some point. And that's just something that can happen. And you feel embarrassed and silly or mad that you messed up. It's just, you just have to deal with it. I had a match just yesterday in Ikoria Limited, which I know you haven't played it, but Ikoria Limited is wild. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Where the only way I could win, I didn't realize I could win, but it turned out I could win if my opponent had two creatures, only attacked with one of them, and then played a pump effect on the other one. There's no possible reason why that would happen, and that's actually what happened.
Okay.
And then I'm sure, and you're just looking at it, and the way Jarman's looking at the board right now is like, how could I actually have lost that game? And just kind of just a confluence of events. You lose track of what's important in your head, and you screw up, and it just happens.
I have a story that I've brought up a few times like this. I was playing at my first big tournament. It was the Star City Open 4 or 5 years ago or so, and my opponent cast an Anger of the Gods. I was playing like Abzan Company or something. I think it was actually a Kiki Chord. And I had a Wall of Roots, which was an 0-4, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll have a mana floating just to be strictly correct, right? Because I want to have this mana floating because it's going to die to the Anger anyway. It wasn't going to die to the Anger anyway, so I just put a -0/-1 counter on it, and my opponent's like, okay, that resolves. And he's like, Anger resolves? I'm like, yes. And I put all my creatures in exile, and he's like, go to combat? And I'm like, yes. And I just did not use the mana for anything, and he's just like, okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because, everyone's tired of hearing bad beat stories. Like, oh, my opponent ripped this card and I lost. Yeah, we know. This happens. A horrible mistake that cost you game stories, those are endless. Those are great. They're timeless. Yeah. Never get tired of hearing those. Anyway, so that's conclude our second round one match. Now we're going to go through a couple slides, and then we're going to have a discussion with Will about the recently announced Planeswalker point decision that Wizards has made, which is proving to be maybe even more than controversial, because in order to be controversial, I feel like there has to be arguments on both sides. And I'm not sure there is one this time around, but we're going to go through a couple slides first, and we'll get back and we'll see what the chat has to say and see if you guys have any further questions for the two of us regarding that or anything else. So we want to mention KMC Sleeves is a sponsor of Nerd Rage Gaming, both of the live events and of the online series broadcasts that we're doing. It's a quality sleeve, and once we get Nerd Rage events back running again, which I'm confident in saying will be a while, KMC sleeves are available at all of our live events at a discount from where normal price you're available to buy them. And so we want to thank them for supporting both the store and the online broadcasts. In addition to that, nerdragegaming.com is still functioning. Singles, whatever you need, buy and sell. You go to nerdragegaming.com. Free shipping with the promo code STAYHOME, which is fitting because that's what most of us are doing. Although, please, there were pictures of people at the beaches in California this weekend. Please don't associate me with those people. I was not at the beach because I don't want to die from this.
Nope.
So yeah, buy and sell your singles and collections at nerdgaming.com. And okay, chat emotes. Now this one is, I always find this slide somewhat embarrassing because yeah, we have this collection of emotes that we created, and the first one is kind of give me one, and you have to get to a certain number of subscriptions in order to unlock the other ones. That has not happened. So if you guys are interested in helping us along with that, or if you want to subscribe to help support the channel, the series, and everything involved in that, subscribe. If you don't feel comfortable with that level of commitment, just being here to watch is great, and we appreciate that quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Next, stay connected with the Nerd Rage series on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and the one it took me the longest time to learn, Instagram, at /NRG series. You will be able to see a replay of this broadcast on YouTube, /NRG series, later on tonight or tomorrow, I assume. Also, nerdragegaming.com. We have singles available if you want to find out about our tournament series. Also available, we have boxes of Ikoria, $94.99. I am not shilling for the company when I say this. I had no plans to play limited of Ikoria. When the Pro Tour was announced and did not have limited with the set, I was like, all right, I'm probably not going to bother with the set. I got into it. I love it. I'm probably going to buy, I don't normally, there's only a couple sets where I have stored away boxes so that I can play them sometime in the future when I want to. Innistrad is one of them, Rise Eldrazi, and I think I'm going to get some Ikoria just because this is a very enjoyable set to play with limited. Also,
try it out.
The cards in this set are probably going to be, in the future, more valuable than they would be otherwise, because given what's going on in the world right now, I don't think there's any chance that they meet the normal sales levels of this set. Also, Commander 2020 decks available at nerdrage.com. We have Enhanced Evolution, Timeless Wisdom, Symbiotic Swarm, Arcane Maelstrom, and Ruthless Regiment. Now, if you had asked me before this slide popped on the screen, can you name one of the 5? I'll give you $1 million. I would have walked out with nothing. But those are the 5 available 2020 Commander decks available at nerdragegaming.com. Okay, next. Our next event will be Standard on Arena. So this is going to be on May 9th. We kind of committed ourselves. We ran the initial invitational event a couple weeks ago, and to try out kind of, do we want to broadcast? We broadcasted that, recorded, over a span broken up. Then we told ourselves we're going to do 2 events and see how that plays out. We're going to broadcast them live. We are in the middle of, we just completed the first round of the first one, which was Pioneer on Magic Online. The next one is going to be Arena Standard. On May 9th, there'll be more details in the future about that. It runs on the MTG, using the MTG Melee matchmaking software, which I gotta say, I was pretty happy with. I thought it worked very smoothly. There was a bug that was on their end that kind of disrupted things a little bit, but nothing crucial, and I was pleasantly surprised with how well it worked.
Yeah, Melee is. I've played 2 tournaments now with MTG Melee, and I'm pretty happy with them. I've had a few issues, but I mean nothing major, and I just enjoy the tournaments.
Yeah, it went well, and it's nice to play. I was surprised at how into it I got.
Yeah.
I actually felt, some real stress playing in this event on MTG Melee this weekend, which I'm not sure I really expected going in, which is good. I mean, it meant to me that I cared about what the outcome and doing well, and that's, if anytime I get to play competitive Magic that I care about, I'm going to be a happy mood, and apparently that worked for me. So now, after all that, we're going to get to the discussion topic for tonight, which is, if you have not seen this, Wizards of the Coast announced that they are going to sunset the Planeswalker Point system, and in a matter of weeks, perhaps a month, I'm not sure the exact timeline.
About a month, yeah.
Yeah, they are going to, not only are they going to stop using Planeswalker Points, I don't think anyone would cry about that necessarily, but they're going to throw away the archives, all the information, match histories of all that players have. You can go, the website is not easy to use, and so that's probably hurt it. I'm being nice on that one. It's not easy to use, and that's probably hurt the usefulness of the site over the years. But it's a lot of information that is probably very dear to a lot of players. especially ones that are invested or that have been in a long time. Now, I believe we have available our Planeswalker slides. Now, here we go.
You have a few more lifetime points than I do.
Yeah.
Just a couple.
We see on the bottom a level 39 sorcerer, Will Krueger.
Yeah.
And you're a young pup. That's a pretty good achievement for you. And then
sure.
up top we have a level 50 Archmage.
Yeah.
Which is me, Phil Lossett. And does this mean anything? No.
Yes.
Does it matter to me that I'm ranked 3rd all time in California in Planeswalker points? Does it mean anything?
Wow.
No. Did I think it was cool? You bet your ass I did. And am I sad it's going away? Yes, I am. So this is what I would like to see. I don't even know if there's a real deep discussion here. It's probably a financial thing. It takes the money to preserve the information on servers, which I'm not a tech guy, but I'm certainly aware that storage has gotten cheaper over the years, not more expensive. And so it feels like, wow, couldn't we keep this just as a favor to the players?
Yeah, but one would think that would be the option, or like they would give you a way to download it or save it in some way, right? Like, people are going to want access to it, and like downloading is not ideal. Like, you prefer that it just stays there dormant and you can look at it when you want to reminisce or whatever. But like, I mean, just being like, no, you can't download it. No, we're not saving it. This is just gone forever. Get wrecked, kid. Is like,
it's a little harsh. And I guess I saw something about saying that it's actually not just the storage. It's that like the whole server architecture is old and they're going to be moving on from it, so it's actually expensive to maintain. I don't know about all that. I'll believe it, but yeah, giving us the option to download and the library is less useful than it was at one time because so many players have kind of lost the link between now there's Wizard accounts and the Planeswalker points. So a lot of your entries just have like unknown opponent because the system doesn't link together quite as well as it used to. But even so, like there was my best friend, who I didn't even know at the time. My best friend now, his Planeswalker point page shows that like forever ago, before I ever met him, his first ever PTQ, we played each other.
Really? That's like the interesting thing that you want to find on that, right? And it's just like, it's hilarious. It's like,
it's so cool.
It's like, we battled like years before he met or whatever, and it's just like,
yeah. And does that matter? No, but it's nice.
Yeah.
And I really hope that if they don't, either they can make it available for download in a way that's understandable, or some third party like MTGO project or something that's put a lot of time into something like this can devise a way or explain a way for players to easily download their history, because this just be a nice thing to have. Even if you lose the link between your opponents, it'd be nice just to have the history of the tournaments you played in. I would
absolutely. Just like, when like you started playing, you played 4 FNMs and then you went to this PTQ and then you played 6 more FNMs and 2 months went by and then you played this PTQ, and it's like, wow, okay, this timeline is really interesting to have. And like, I don't know, if you want to remember like how you started or whatever, it's just nice to have access to that. And it's just like, it just feels like such a low cost to keep up. Maybe it's not. Maybe like we don't have the details. Like neither you or I knows how much it costs to keep up. But like,
but
it's just so bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, you won your first PTO a week ago. I won my first one something like 17 years ago, and I would like to be able to actually point when that was, because it was cool. And I remember what I was playing, and I remember where it was, but I don't remember the date. I don't remember exactly, who I played, and it'd just be neat to be able to have. Anyway, that's our thoughts on that subject. I'm gonna go ahead and look at the chat now and see what you guys think, and also feel free to go ahead and throw out if you have questions about this topic, other things you saw tonight, or if you just have general questions for either Will or I. Go ahead. This is the time. I will take a few minutes and see what we've got here. So. Let's see. What do we have?
So I believe Jeffer MTG is Jarman. He said he was embarrassed about the misplay at the end. Dude, don't be embarrassed. Like I said, it happens to literally everybody. Like everybody's just made boneheaded mistakes. Like you shouldn't feel bad. Like it sucks that it happened like here and it got streamed, but it's just like It happens, man, and anybody who tells you that they haven't done something like that is lying to you, or they don't realize that they haven't done something like that, which is much worse.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, too. There's lots of people going around making mistakes, including me, who don't realize it.
Right.
Sometimes and that's one of the nice things about covered matches, and I've had the pleasure of being on camera a lot of times over the years, and going back and watching old matches, which is something I do of my own, and I'll watch a match from 5 years ago, and I'll see a complete boneheaded mistake that I didn't realize.
Right,
and it's super cool to go back and be able to see that. All right. Do you guys think it's too late for Wizards to fundamentally change how companions work to make them more balanced? Okay, that's a good question. So I'll say what I think, and then Will, you can chime in. So I think companions are cool. I think deck building stipulations, in order, like, forcing you to meet some criteria in order to get a different bonus, I think it's neat. It's kind of like the avatars in Commander, back at the beginning of Magic Online, where all the different ones. I think they had it in paper also, where you could start with -1 card, +3 life, and have the ability to pay 3 mana and gain a life. Or, I'm just making it up, but something like that. The companions feel like they tried to do that, and the cards just came out too strong. I understand Wizards not being able to. There's how many people are in the play design team and the development team. There's a number of people that work there. They're good players, but still, it's like 10 or 20 people at most.
Yeah.
Things are going to slip through, and so I think it's forgivable. Would I change how companions work? No, but if you have to ban them and then introduce a new group of them in a future set that aren't quite as strong, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot that I'm happy that exists. I think Obosh is my favorite companion. I think that it's just really cool design. I think the odd and even restriction is really interesting. It hasn't been explored in Magic before. It's been done in Hearthstone a few years ago. Those ones were way stronger than the odd and even ones. The odd and even cards in that game were those were so messed up, man. I can't even begin. But Obosh is just super interesting, and he's clearly not too good. He costs 5 mana, and it's just interesting. Yorion is another one I really like. I also like the Fox. The Fox is maybe a little too good in Legacy with the monoliths, but sometimes you're going to print a new card that's good with some random card that's 20 years old. It's going to happen, and that's just sort of the nature of Legacy, right?
Yeah.
But Luris in particular is one that's just okay, so this is a card that a lot of people would just probably play in their decks just to play in their decks, and if you just didn't have a companion on it, but it's just okay, here, why don't you just start with this in your opening hand every game is okay, maybe that's a lot,
I guess one way to attempt, the question was saying, can we have Wizards fix them? I guess fix them would be to just say they're not companions anymore. They're just cards.
Sure, yeah, you could do that, but I don't like functional errata too much.
Neither do I, and I think that's something that that Magic can't really do. But I'm trying to, in the scope of the question, that would be kind of, I guess, the approach. I would say that's incredibly unlikely because you just can't. For one, it screws casual players who buy packs of Magic, play over the years, but wouldn't keep up with the tournament scene, may not keep up with it, so they're not going to know. And so it's just, I don't know, it just creates a different environment. It makes things tough. Good question, though, and it's a good solution to that would be great, but because they do appear to be, on the whole, at least if there were underpowered ones and ones that were correctly leveled, that'd be fine. But instead we have underpowered, correctly leveled, and busted, and then ruins it for everybody. Okay, what else we got? Let's see.
In order to start with them, you must scry one bottom. Interesting. That isn't the worst idea. That seems kind of reasonable to me. It's just we just change how the mechanic works, and there's no reminder text on any of them according to Thunderwunk. And that's probably a fine solution. Put one on bottom from your opening hand to start with a companion. That's probably okay. I think alternatively they could just print less broken companions in the future and ban the broken companions now, and then you just don't have to do that. But that's a totally fine solution. I'm interested to see where they're going to go with it.
Okay, so Sam Brown is asking. Sam Brown was a player in our first match tonight. He's asking, would you have kept or mulliganed his opening hand in game 3? I believe this is the 2-land hand. Okay, maybe we're actually going to have to...
I think this was a triple Boros land hand. And
oh, okay. I was thinking it was too late.
yeah,
You're right.
this is. I think this was the mulligan.
Director Max Kahn bringing this back up here. Good for him. This makes it much easier, and also for people to follow along that weren't here at this point in the game. So the question is, Sam Brown on the bottom, should his hand have been mulliganed?
I would have mulliganed this personally. I'm not sure how you feel, Joe, but I mean, even though you're in an attrition matchup with a critical mass deck, this hand is just like a huge percentage of the time you just can't cast your spells, and you don't function. But the way the game played out, we did just draw a 2-drop and then the lands to cast all of the spells in their hand, so it worked out great. But I would have mulliganed this hand.
I mean, it does look a little. It looks very dicey. We could go in and figure out you need 2 additional colors of mana.
Yes.
Realistically, to be able to cast the cards in your hand, and that's asking a lot. And if you're going to keep a speculative hand like that, I feel like if you hit the lands that you need, your hand has to be great.
Yes.
Is that great? No, because we don't even have a 2-drop. We ended up with one, but if we had the 2-drop if we had a 2-drop that we cast to the lands we had, then I'm on board. But given that we didn't have that either, I feel like it's rough. It worked out, I believe, and but no, that would have been. I would have been very afraid of that. Okay, this is a good one. We'll take 1 or 2 more, and then we'll wrap it up for tonight. I was on hiatus when Planeswalkers were first introduced. Was the reaction similar then? Will, you probably weren't old enough to really be playing then.
I was about 6 or so, I believe, when Planeswalkers were introduced. Okay. I was a little busy with kindergartner activities to be focused on the current Magic outrage at that time.
Okay, so I don't have distinct memories of players' reactions to that. I think it was more excitement because it was cool and different, and people and the negative reactions were based on this is new. This is a weird part of the game. We didn't have this before. Why is this element suddenly mattering? But I think it's very significant that the initial run of Planeswalkers, for players that remember them, or if you look them up, they were not of the power level that the busted. Like I was talking about earlier, we had kind of the low power. If we had low power companions and fair companions, that would be one thing. And I believe with the initial run of Planeswalkers, that's really what we had. We didn't have the turbo busted 2 or 3 that kind of derailed formats. And so there wasn't, while there were people that didn't like the way that it disrupted traditionally how the game was played, we didn't have this format is messed up until you ban something. So right. there wasn't, I don't believe, now I could be very wrong, that's the impression I remember having, but I don't think it was to the level it is now.
Got a Yama Killer in chat. He's asking who my favorite streamer is. Of course, you, Yama Killer, or me, one of those two. So, who else is in chat?
All right, I think we're pretty much winding down now. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone who showed up tonight. For Will and myself, for Director Max Kahn, owner Norman Cohen, and everyone else involved in Nerd Gaming. Thank you for showing up, and thank you to our sponsors. And so this was our first night of NRG at night. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's guest is Simon Camaro, I believe. And you can find on Twitter and also probably on the store's Facebook page the schedule for the rest of the week. But we'll be on weeknights for this week and next week. I believe we have the guests all lined up for that span. And then after that, we'll have a new event and also potentially be able to recycle commentators. And then, Will, you want to come back? I'd be happy to have you again.
I would love to come back, Joe.
Okay, so thanks for everyone for watching, and we'll see you here tomorrow night again at 7 Central, and this time we'll start on time because I'm optimistic and not realistic. So we'll see you next time.